What if I told you that the most beautiful gardens aren't built from wealth, but from what the world throws away? Today, we're transforming trash, bottles, chairs, caps, cups, into breathtaking garden art that turns the smallest yards into living poetry. This isn't just decoration. It's imagination made visible. Welcome to Nest Nature, a space where creativity meets sustainability. In this video, we'll explore powerful DIY trash garden ideas, practical, colorful, and full of soul. You'll find timestamps below, so feel free to jump to the part that inspires you most. And if something sparks your curiosity, leave a comment. Your thoughts build this garden too. If you love what you see, take it further, recreate it, adapt it, and make it your own. Because beauty starts not with what we have, but with what we choose to see. Maybe to you, I'm just another voice on a screen. But behind this channel, there's a real story and a real family. Every like, every comment, every subscription, it matters more than you know. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting a creator. You're keeping a dream alive, one click, one seed of hope at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. In a small corner of an English-style garden, where marigolds nod to the morning breeze and asters glow like tiny suns, a simple wooden fence once stood dull and forgotten. Then, one quiet weekend, someone's imagination turned trash into delight. From a pile of used bottle caps, red from soda, blue from water, green from mineral drinks, wings began to form. Each piece was painted with patient strokes of pastel and sunshine. One by one, they were shaped into butterflies, each carrying a whisper of transformation. Now, the fence tells a story. A parade of butterflies dances across the boards, catching the golden light and turning it into little sparks of joy. Children who pass by stop to point and smile. Even the neighbors, who once threw away their caps without thought, start collecting them in jars, waiting for a new creation to bloom. Around the fence, chrysanthemums and Japanese anemones stretch toward the sky, their petals brushing the air as if to greet the flying colors beside them. Bees hum, drawn by both the real and the painted, unsure which beauty is alive and which was reborn. The garden hums with soft life, not from perfection, but from the harmony of reuse and imagination. When evening falls, the fence glows under the amber sunset. The recycled butterflies shimmer faintly, their bodies no longer symbols of waste, but of wonder. It's as if they remind everyone who sees them, nothing is ever truly useless, only waiting to be seen differently. And so, in this tiny yard between wildflowers and whispers of the wind, the bottle-cap butterfly parade fence stands not as decoration, but as a celebration of second chances, of creativity, and of the quiet joy found in turning yesterday's trash into tomorrow's story. In the quiet heart of a small backyard, there once stood an old chair, one leg cracked, its paint faded and peeling. Most would have thrown it away. But to someone with a patient soul and a love for second chances, it was not waste, it was a story waiting to bloom. The chair was gently cleaned, its surface brushed with a new layer of pastel blue paint, soft as morning skies. In its hollow seat, soil was placed, and soon tiny roots began to take hold. Chrysanthemums unfurled their bright petals, marigolds leaned playfully to the side, and aster blooms dotted the edges like freckles of joy. The broken chair became whole again, not as furniture, but as life itself. Now it rests in a little nook behind the pergola, where the air smells of damp earth and lavender. Bees hover lazily from bloom to bloom, brushing against the worn wood. Each morning, when the sunlight filters through, the chair glows, not with perfection, but with purpose. Visitors stop to admire it, often whispering, "It's beautiful," though what they really mean is, it feels alive. And perhaps that's the secret. What once was broken now carries more beauty than before, simply because someone cared enough to see potential in its flaws. As the seasons pass, the paint softens and the flowers change, yet the chair remains, a quiet witness to the rhythm of the garden. It holds not just soil and blossoms, but a gentle reminder, beauty doesn't always begin new. Sometimes it's reborn, painted softly over the cracks of time. In that tiny nook, where fallen leaves gather and the air hums with warmth, the broken chair blossom nook sits as a humble masterpiece, a rustic whisper of patience, creativity, and the art of turning what's forgotten into something that smiles back at the world. When the morning sun peeks through the pergola beams, a string of colors begins to sway in the soft wind. They are not lanterns or chimes, but something far more whimsical, a line of old teacups, each painted by hand and reborn as tiny cradles of life. Once, these cups held tea, laughter, and quiet conversations. Now, They hold soil, roots, and the hum of bees. Suspended by rustic twine, they dance gently in the breeze, each one blooming with its own little world, asters bursting with pink joy, marigolds glowing like captured suns, and sedum leaves trailing down like soft whispers. When you stand beneath them, it feels as though you're walking under a ribbon of color. The air is alive with the scent of wet soil and flowers, the scent of home and hope. Birds often perch nearby, curious at the sight of their reflection in the glossy glaze of the cups. What was once chipped or cracked now glimmers anew, proving that imperfection can shine brighter than newness ever could. The teacups, mismatched and aged, now hum together in harmony, each one different, yet belonging perfectly to the rhythm of this small garden. At sunset, the teacups catch the last light, glowing faintly like pearls in the dusk. And when the first drops of rain arrive, they fill with tiny reflections of the sky, turning from planters into mirrors of the moment. The teacup rainbow hanging line is not just decoration. It's a string of memories, strung gently across a pergola, reminding every passerby that beauty isn't found in perfection or wealth, but in the simple act of giving things, and moments, a second chance. In a world that forgets too easily, this quiet garden remembers. It remembers that every small object, when loved again, can become a source of joy, a soft light hanging in the wind, a rainbow born from what others leave behind. When the day softens into evening and the first hints of dusk settle over the garden, a gentle glow begins to appear along the path. It's not from expensive lanterns or crafted glass, but from the humblest of things, old plastic bottles, reborn as lights that guide the way. Each bottle was once tossed aside, empty and forgotten. But now, washed and cut with care, painted in shades of cream, lavender, and soft gold, they shimmer with a quiet dignity. Inside them, tiny lead candles flicker, warm, steady, and welcoming. The path transforms into a ribbon of light weaving through chrysanthemums and asters that nod in the cool breeze. The garden seems to breathe differently under this light. Shadows dance across the marigold petals, and the gentle hum of the night begins to rise. You can almost hear the rustle of leaves whispering secrets to the soft lantern glow. Children who visit in the evening pause, wide-eyed, tracing their steps through the glowing path. They don't see plastic bottles, they see magic, little jars of warmth lighting up the earth. The adults, meanwhile, feel a quiet satisfaction, knowing that beauty doesn't have to cost much, only imagination and heart. Each lantern holds a story of renewal, a bottle saved, a hand that chose to create rather than discard, a light that now serves to illuminate rather than pollute. The walkway glows brighter than it should, as if proud of what it has become. When night deepens, and the stars scatter across the sky, the plastic bottle lantern walkway shines softly below, a mirror of the heavens above. It doesn't shout for attention, it simply glows, calm and content, guiding footsteps through a world reborn by creativity. Here, in this tiny yard, sustainability and poetry meet. The trash of yesterday becomes tonight's starlight. The path may be small, but the message it carries gleams endlessly. That beauty can shine brightest when it comes from what the world has already forgotten. At the far edge of a quiet backyard, where the wind hums softly through the bamboo and marigolds dance in clusters of gold, stands a fence unlike any other. It doesn't separate, it celebrates. Upon its wooden slats bloom flowers not born from soil, but from imagination, circles of rusted metal, bottle caps, and forgotten parts now spun into wheels of color and life. Each wheel began as a piece of junk, bent and dull, its story ended. But under the gentle care of a creative gardener, they were brushed clean, painted in hues of coral, mint, and lemon. Together they formed a rustic junk flower wheel fence, turning the plain into poetry. In the bright morning light, the wheels catch the sun and shimmer like small garden halos. Aster blooms rise behind them, filling the gaps with soft purple whispers. The marigolds below mirror their yellow tones, creating a harmony between nature's blooms and human hands. Neighbors passing by often stop to smile. Some tilt their heads, trying to guess how something so charming could come from discarded pieces. The answer is always simple: love and patience. There is beauty in giving things a new breath, and this fence breathes that truth with every gleam of light that passes through. When evening arrives, the painted metal reflects the warm glow of lanterns along the fence. The garden becomes a living gallery, rustic, imperfect, yet deeply alive. Each flower wheel spins slightly in the breeze, not as a sign of movement, but of rebirth. Here, in this tiny space, junk finds its rhythm again. The old becomes young. The unwanted becomes art. The rustic junk flower wheel fence isn't just decoration, it's a conversation between what was lost and what was found, a bridge between yesterday's waste and today's wonder. And when the rain falls gently over it, the colors gleam even brighter, as though nature itself approves, turning the simple act of recycling into something that feels almost divine. There's a quiet joy in small things, in the way herbs release their scent when brushed by your hand, or how sunlight spills gently over a worn wooden chair turned into something new. In a tiny patio behind a weathered farmhouse, an old chair sits proudly, reborn as a tiny patio chair herb rack. Once destined for the dump, its metal legs now gleam with a coat of pale mint paint. On each step of its seat and backrest, little pots sit snugly, some made from old tin cans, others from cracked teacups. In them grow fragrant herbs, rosemary reaching up like green fingers, thyme cascading in silvery trails, and mint spreading its freshness into the morning air. When the wind moves, it carries whispers of lemon balm and sage, filling the patio with a scent that feels both alive and comforting. The chair seems to breathe, not furniture anymore, but a living sculpture of simplicity and renewal. Around it, marigolds brighten the corners with their golden glow, while asters lend a soft purple contrast. Bees visit often, drawn by the promise of nectar and the hum of gentle color. It's a small garden, but it feels infinite, each leaf and petal telling its own quiet story. Visitors often stop, smiling at the sight. Some call it clever, others call it beautiful. But perhaps it's more than that. It's proof that creativity doesn't demand space or money, only care. At dusk, as the light fades, the chair takes on a peaceful glow, surrounded by the faint hum of crickets. It stands not as a reminder of what was thrown away, but as a celebration of what was saved. The herbs will keep growing, the chair will keep holding, and the garden will keep whispering the same truth. Beauty blooms when we choose to see potential instead of waste. The tiny patio chair herb rack is not just a project, it's a philosophy. A small rebellion against throwaway living, a quiet harmony between practicality and poetry, and a lovely scent in the air that makes even the smallest space feel like home. Along the edge of a small backyard, where asters bloom and sedum blushes under the afternoon sun, the garden meets the sea, not the real one, but a shimmering memory of it. Blue bottles, once tossed aside and forgotten, now stand proudly along the border, their curved forms capturing the light like ripples of water frozen in time. This is the seascape bottle border glow, a dance between earth and ocean, between what was thrown away and what can still shine. Each bottle, carefully cut and buried halfway into the soil, reflects the sun's warmth in a soft gradient of blue and white. Together, they form waves that seem to move when the wind sways the nearby marigolds. The garden hums quietly around it. Bees drift lazily between the chrysanthemums, and the scent of anemones carries through the air, light and clean like sea spray. A curious bird pauses on one of the bottles, its reflection glimmering back like a secret shared. At twilight, when the last golden light touches the garden, the bottles begin to glow softly. Their translucent walls catch the amber rays, and suddenly, the small backyard feels like a shore at sunset, peaceful, infinite, and impossibly serene. Visitors often stop in wonder, unsure what they're seeing. "Is that glass?" they ask, leaning closer. But no, it's plastic, something ordinary made extraordinary through vision and care. There's a kind of quiet pride in knowing beauty doesn't need to come from wealth or waste, but from how we choose to see it. The seascape bottle border glow tells a story of renewal, of waves that never crash, of colors that never fade. It's a reminder that gardens are not just made of soil and seeds, but also of imagination. Even trash, when placed with heart, can reflect the sky. And as night falls, the bottles whisper back the fading light, holding on to a piece of day just a little longer, as if the ocean itself had decided to visit, leaving behind its glow in a humble backyard garden. There's a wall in the back of the garden that used to stand bare, plain, grey, and silent. Now, it sings. Each note comes from a teacup, chipped but cherished, reborn as a vessel for life and color. Together, they form a melody of blooms and shades, a cup garden symphony wall. Old cups of every kind, porcelain, tin, and ceramic, are fastened neatly in rows, each one holding a burst of green. Some cradle daisies and asters, others spill marigolds over their rims like laughter escaping after rain. Each morning, the wall awakens as sunlight touches the cups, lighting up the colors one by one, like the rising notes of a gentle song. The air hums softly. Bees flit between blossoms, wings catching the light as if in rhythm with the garden's tune. There's a calmness here, a sense that time slows when surrounded by such whimsical harmony. Even the cracks on the cups tell their stories, of breakfasts long gone, of families, of quiet afternoons where someone once held them close. Now, these cups hold roots instead of tea, and their warmth comes from the earth, not from boiling water. They're proof that life, once poured out, can always be refilled, differently, beautifully. When evening comes, the light fades and the flowers rest, but the cups remain faintly glowing in the dusk, a gentle wall of memories turned to art. It's not perfect, but then again, neither is any good song. The beauty lies in its rhythm, in the balance of colors and the echo of care that went into each placement. Visitors often stop to listen, not with their ears, but with their hearts. For here, even in the smallest of spaces, joy has found a place to grow, blooming from the remnants of the everyday, arranged by hands that believe in second chances. The Cup Garden Symphony wall stands as more than decoration. It's a hymn to imperfection, a soft chorus of renewal, and a reminder that beauty, like music, is meant to be shared, even if it begins with something as humble as an old cup. In a corner of the farmhouse garden, where laughter meets sunlight and the air smells faintly of rosemary and paint, a parade begins. It's not one of people or pets, but of bottle caps, bright, round, and full of new purpose. Here, the farmhouse bottle cap animal parade marches proudly along the fence, turning waste into whimsy. Each cap once sealed a bottle of water, soda, or milk. Now, they're painted with soft strokes of joy, whites for feathers, blacks for whiskers, yellows for beaks. Piece by piece, they become creatures, cheerful hens, clever cats, curious owls, and buzzing bees. Their eyes, crafted from smaller caps, seem to follow the garden breeze. Children love to count them, pointing out each one by name. "Look, a fox," they giggle, as marigolds sway nearby like tiny suns. Even the adults can't help but smile. What was once trash now fills the backyard with color and charm, as if the fence itself decided to come alive. Behind the parade, asters bloom in purple clusters, and Japanese anemones flutter softly in the air. Bees drift lazily between the real and the imagined, drawn to both paint and pollen, unsure where art ends and life begins. When dusk arrives, the colors deepen under the golden light, and the little animals seem to move, shadows shifting, forms dancing gently across the wooden boards. The scene becomes almost magical, as if these playful shapes have always belonged here, nestled among the flowers and laughter. It's a reminder that art doesn't need perfection, it only needs heart. That beauty can be built from the ordinary, and joy can grow from the simplest of ideas. The farmhouse bottle cap animal parade is more than decoration, it's a celebration. A celebration of imagination, of laughter shared between generations, and of the power of creativity to turn even the smallest, most overlooked thing into something worth smiling at. And when the wind passes through the garden, the caps clink ever so softly, as if the little creatures are whispering back, "Thank you for letting us live again." In a small garden tucked behind a weathered cottage, two worlds meet: the organic strength of bamboo and the gentle transparency of recycled plastic. Together, they form the DIY bamboo and plastic harmony fence, a quiet fusion of tradition and renewal, of nature's patience and human creativity. The fence stands tall yet humble, its rhythm flowing like a melody. Bamboo poles rise straight and strong, their golden texture warmed by sunlight. Between them, translucent bottles glimmer softly, painted in the faint hues of sky and sea. When the breeze passes through, light dances between the bamboo's calm earthiness and the bottle's playful glow. It is not the work of precision but of balance, a reflection of how the natural and the man-made can coexist beautifully. Nearby, marigolds press against the fence, their orange blooms flickering like small flames. Asters lean toward the light that filters through the bottles, while sedum and anemones frame the base with their calm greens and pinks. At midday, when the sun is high, the bottles catch the light like liquid glass. They bend the rays and scatter them gently across the garden soil, creating ripples of color that shift as clouds drift by. By dusk, the bamboo glows in soft amber, its tone deepening against the cool blue of the plastic. The contrast feels alive, a conversation between the past and the future. Visitors often ask, why mix bamboo and plastic? The gardener smiles, answering not with words but with the way light falls across the fence. It speaks for itself, a lesson in coexistence, in seeing harmony where others might see difference. The DIY bamboo and plastic harmony fence is not just a barrier, it's a bridge. It unites what the earth gives and what humans reshape. It shows that sustainability can be both simple and stunning, rustic yet refined. And when the evening wind rustles through the bamboo, the bottles chime faintly, a soft music born from renewal. The garden listens, glowing quietly under the fading light, as if the world itself approves of this gentle union between nature and creation. In a hidden corner of a tiny yard, where wildflowers meet soft whispers of wind, magic quietly takes root. There, among moss and marigolds, sits a row of old teacups, each chipped, mismatched, and perfect in its imperfection. Inside them live tiny worlds, alive with imagination. This is the tiny yard fairy cup garden, where forgotten things bloom again. Each cup holds a dream, a patch of moss like a meadow, a sprig of thyme that smells like summer, a pebble path winding toward a miniature door. Tiny fairies made from bits of wire and petals rest upon the rims, their wings catching sunlight like glass. When morning dew settles, it becomes their pond. When the wind blows, it's their lullaby. The garden feels alive in a way words can't quite capture. Chrysanthemums and asters rise protectively around the fairy cups, forming a circle of color, a soft fortress of blooms. Bees wander in, curious but gentle, tasting the sweetness in the air. Children visiting the garden stop and stare, their eyes wide with wonder. They whisper softly, as though afraid to disturb whatever magic sleeps within the porcelain. Adults smile too, remembering the days when they still believed that tiny wings might hide among the flowers. As the sun dips low, the cups gleam under golden light. Shadows stretch like silk, and the garden seems to hum, not with sound, but with feeling. It's the quiet joy of things reborn, of beauty crafted from what others left behind. The tiny yard fairy cup garden is more than decoration. It's a gentle story told through soil and porcelain. It reminds us that imagination is not bound by space or scale, that wonder can grow even in a teacup. And when the night falls softly over the yard, the tiny cups glisten with dew once again, like jewels hidden in plain sight. The fairies may not move, yet somehow, everything in this little garden feels awake, proof that in every recycled piece of the world, there's still room for magic. As the last light of evening melts into gold, a soft glow awakens under the garden pergola. It flickers gently, not from fancy bulbs or expensive fixtures, but from the humblest of materials: old bottles, dented cans, and bits of scrap reborn into color and light. This is the colorful trash lantern pergola, where waste becomes wonder beneath the twilight sky. Each lantern tells its own story. A tin can once rattled in the wind by the roadside, now it shines with a warm amber glow. A plastic bottle, once dull and discarded, now glistens in pastel pinks and blues, scattering light like glass. Strung across the pergola beams, they sway softly with the evening breeze, casting dappled shadows over the blooms below. Chrysanthemums open like tiny suns under their watch, while asters and marigolds blush in the soft light. The pergola itself feels alive, vines climbing its corners, leaves catching fragments of color as if they were tiny stained glass windows. The garden transforms, taking on the gentle intimacy of a secret celebration. Visitors often pause in silence, touched by how something so simple can feel so enchanting. The lanterns seem to hum with life, not electricity, but emotion. They remind everyone who passes through that beauty doesn't come from perfection, it comes from purpose. When the night deepens, and the stars begin to appear, the pergola glows brighter, echoing the heavens above. The flickering lights mimic constellations, connecting one recycled piece to another, a constellation made not of stars, but of second chances. In that soft glow, surrounded by flowers and warmth, people linger a little longer, forgetting the rush of the day. The air smells faintly of earth and paint, and somewhere, faint laughter drifts through the lanterns like a melody. The colorful trash lantern pergola is more than garden decor, it's a small act of hope. It whispers that creativity can turn even the discarded into something that lights the world. And when the wind stirs the lanterns once more, they seem to sway in gratitude, shining gently, like happiness rediscovered. There's something tender about an old chair, the way it holds the shape of years, the faint scars of time, the quiet stories of those who once sat and dreamed upon it. In the garden, that story continues. The chair, once tired and forgotten, now stands reborn as the old chair flower stage, where blossoms take the seat once reserved for people. Painted in a soft whisper of pastel mint and ivory, its wooden frame gleams under the morning sun. Along its seat, a bed of soil cradles a living bouquet, chrysanthemums shining like tiny suns, asters brushing against one another in lavender tones, and marigolds bursting in cheerful orange. Even its backrest has been transformed, trailing with green vines and delicate anemones that seem to climb toward the sky. This isn't just a chair anymore. It's a stage, a quiet altar to color and rebirth. The flowers rise proudly, each bloom playing its part in nature's performance. Bees hum like an orchestra tuning up, and the wind rustles through the petals, gentle as applause. In the evenings, when the golden light falls softly across the yard, the chair glows from within, its flowers shimmering, its shadows stretching long and elegant across the garden path. Visitors who see it often smile and whisper, "That's beautiful," but they're really saying, "That feels alive." There's poetry in its transformation, the kind that speaks softly but stays in your memory. What was once meant to hold rest now holds life. It's a reminder that nothing truly ends, it just changes form. And so the old chair flower stage sits quietly in the garden, never asking for attention yet always receiving it. Birds perch upon its arm, petals fall upon its legs, and morning dew gathers along its edges like tiny diamonds. The chair, once discarded, now blooms with pride, not out of grandeur, but gratitude. It stands as a symbol of what the world can become when we choose to see beyond the worn and into the wonderful. In this little corner of earth, the chair doesn't simply exist. It performs, and every flower is its standing ovation. Step into the garden, and the path beneath your feet begins to sing, not with sound, but with color. Along its edges, 1,000 bottle caps gleam like jewels, arranged in intricate mosaics that trace the way forward. This is the bottle cap mosaic path edge, a humble creation that turns every walk through the garden into a quiet celebration. Each cap once sealed something ordinary, a soda, a bottle of water, perhaps a memory of laughter shared on a sunny afternoon. Now, they rest side by side, pressed into the soil like tiny treasures. Reds, blues, greens, and yellows blend together, forming patterns of flowers, stars, and spirals. The morning light catches them, and suddenly the path glows, a rainbow made from what others might have thrown away. Marigolds lean close to admire their reflection, their golden petals shimmering against the colors below. Asters nod softly in approval, while sedum and anemones line the other side, framing the walkway with gentle grace. There's balance here, between nature and craft, between movement and stillness. When rain falls, the caps glisten brighter, each drop magnifying the colors like glass. The walkway becomes a living artwork, shifting tones with the weather, reflecting the moods of the sky. In autumn, when leaves scatter across it, the path becomes even richer, a tapestry of color both made and found. Visitors often pause, tracing the edges with their eyes. "How long did this take?" they ask, and the gardener only smiles. Because it wasn't about time, it was about patience, love, and seeing value where others saw waste. As dusk arrives, and the garden softens into twilight, the caps catch the last light of the day. They don't shine loudly, just enough to remind you they're there, carrying the story of transformation beneath every step. The bottle cap mosaic path edge is not just a border, it's a boundary between the past and the present, between what was discarded and what's been rediscovered. It's proof that even the smallest pieces, when given care and purpose, can turn an ordinary path into something extraordinary, one colorful step at a time. Beyond the chatter of the everyday, there exists a corner of calm, a place where wind, light, and silence weave together. Here lies the Japanese bottle Zen border, a soft circle of renewal crafted not from stone or marble, but from recycled bottles reborn into serenity. The bottles, in shades of soft green and clear glass, are arranged in slow, deliberate arcs. Their rounded forms catch the sunlight and bend it gently onto the white gravel below, scattering glimmers like ripples across water. The air feels still, but alive, touched by the hum of bees among Japanese anemones that bloom nearby. It is a garden without excess. Each detail speaks in whispers: the rustle of sedum leaves, the weight of a smooth stone, the faint reflection of the sky mirrored in the bottle's curve. There is rhythm here, a balance between nature's quiet power and human intention. Once, these bottles were forgotten vessels, thrown aside without thought. Now, they hold meaning. They outline not just a border, but a boundary of mindfulness. To sit beside them is to listen, to the subtle pulse of the garden, to your own breathing, to the unhurried dance of the world continuing as it always has. In the late afternoon, the sun dips low, and the bottles glow like lanterns in meditation. Their soft green hue mingles with the gold of the fading light, casting a gentle warmth over the moss and stones. It feels timeless, like a conversation between today and eternity. Visitors who enter this space instinctively lower their voices. There's no need to speak, the garden does the talking. It reminds them that peace isn't something grand to be built, it's something simple to be found. The Japanese bottle Zen border stands as both art and philosophy. It honors what's been used, giving it new meaning. It celebrates harmony through contrast, plastic and plant, man-made and natural, old and new. And as night falls, the bottles fade into shadow, reflecting the moon's calm glow. They seem to breathe quietly with the earth, as if whispering a single truth, that even in stillness, there is transformation, and even in trash, there is grace.